All right, let's run through one of these long multi-part problems. This is one where we had answered these kind of questions when we were staring at a graph of the function, but we did not do one where we did not have a graph in front of us. We only had the algebraic expression for the function. So if you want to sort of hedge your bets, I mean, one option is to, if you have Google Chrome on your computer right now, you could actually open Google Chrome and ask it to plot this function. You could say plot 3x squared minus x minus 2 just in the Google search bar, and it actually will do it. You can get a picture on your screen. So if you feel more comfortable working from a picture instead of working from the algebraic equation, a lot of these questions you can actually answer looking at the graph, and you don't have to do too much to draw it. Anyway, but let's suppose we want to work just from the algebraic function, because this is an algebra class, and see how we would do it. Okay, so in part A, the question is 2, 8 on the graph? And so we know that 2, 8 being on the graph, if this is true, that's equivalent, it's the same thing as saying is f of 2 equal to 8. So remember, points on the graph are input-output pairs, and so input 2, output 8. And so those are equivalent statements. So it's very easy to put 2 in here for x, because we have the expression given this way. And that's 3 times 4, 12, minus 2, which I guess is 8, yes. Okay, so that would be yes. Looks like for that one, if I did the arithmetic wrong and f of 2 is not 8, please do not sue me. I think that's right. Anyway, so for part B, you have to take into consideration that I am doing this right now in the dark in a chair while my wife is watching American Idol. So I'm going to do the best I can. So if x equals -1, what's f of x? So for the B part, it's just asking what is f of -1. And so again, if I can do the arithmetic correctly, that's 3 times 1 minus -1. So 3 plus 1 is 4, minus 2 is 2. So I believe that f of -1 is 2, which means that the point -1, 2 is on the graph. Part C. If f of x is -2, what's x? So now this is saying if the y-coordinate is -2, what's the x-coordinate? So we did answer some questions like this graphically, but not with an algebra formula. Remember that this represents the y-coordinate, but also f of x really is just this. I mean, that there is a formula for f of x. So f of x is this, and there's f of x. So I can just replace f of x with this stuff and rewrite this problem. So this problem is really asking if 3x squared minus x minus 2 equals -2, what's x? So this question is literally telling us that the output, this formula, gives us -2. What does the x have to be? And so I can solve this just as a normal algebraic equation. Now this is not a linear equation, so we are going to have to pull some algebra that we have not reviewed. But it's really the algebra of factoring, things that we were talking about in our review on the very first day. So if I add 2 to both sides, this is the equation I'm working from. If I add 2 to both sides, then this equation becomes 3x squared minus x equals 0, which if I factor it, factors into x times 3x minus 1 equals 0, which means that either x is 0 or x is 1/3. So there are two solutions to this. X equals 0, x equals 1/3, which means that the points on the graph, the x-coordinate 0, will give us a y-coordinate of -2, and an x-coordinate of 1/3 will give us a y-coordinate of -2. Those are both easy to check because, well, not easy, I guess, because there's a fraction in there. But if you put 0 in for x, f of 0, you can see that's -2. Putting 0 in for x gives you -2. F of 0 is -2, that's true. And f of 1/3. I hope you can't hear my wife laughing at Harry Connick Jr. Anyway, put in a third for x. You put in a third here, also you get -2. So these are the 2 points. So that does involve this piece of algebra where we have to take an equation equal to 0 and solve it by factoring. So that's a little bit above and beyond what we've done in section 1.1 so far. But But hopefully it's not too strange. Hopefully it's something that you remember seeing before at some point in your life. In part D, the domain of the function, well, there's no division or square roots here, and so the domain is going to be all real numbers, which sometimes we can write like that, or you can write it as an interval, negative infinity to infinity, or you could just say it's everything. So there's no issue with the domain here. Remember we said in class that the only domain issues we're going to have are going to come from trying to divide by 0. That can cause a problem. Trying to take the square root of a negative number could cause a problem. And then eventually we'll see that logarithms also have some problems. But that's it. So if a function has no division, no square roots, and no logarithms, then in our class at least, there's not going to be any domain problems. So the domain will be all the real numbers. X-intercepts, again, graphically, that's a very easy thing to visualize. And so it would help if you were to produce a graph of this, either with a browser or with a graphing calculator. In fact, you can just Google graphing, graphs and whatever, and you'll find programs that allow you to draw things that are available. So I would encourage you to draw the pictures for some of these problems. But x-intercept is not something that we have to have a graph for. X-intercept means that the y-coordinate is 0. So what this is asking is, when is the y-coordinate equal to 0? Well, this is a formula for the y-coordinate right there. And so the x-intercept is where the y-coordinate, which we have a formula for, is equal to 0. Now this one is a little harder to factor. This one is going to make you have to go back to the day when you had this stuff. So we're trying to factor this thing. We know the first times the first here, so first times first is going to be 3x squared, and we know the two numbers that go here need to be either 1 and negative 2 or negative 1 and 2. The last times the last has to be negative 2. So there's only two things there could be. It could be plus 1 minus 2 or minus 1 plus 2. Or I guess plus 2 minus 1. I mean, there's those 4 combinations you could have there. The question is, which of those 4 combinations actually gives you this as your middle term? And even if you just have to guess and try all 4 answers, or all 4 possibilities, it's not the end of the world. But with a little bit of experience, and we will be reviewing some more of this, that combination will do it. So 2x is the inner, minus 3x is the outer, and so when you do the outer plus the inner, you'll get minus x. So that means that x is negative 2/3 or x equals 1. In other words, to finish the problem, I'm seeing, well, what x would make that 0 and what x would make that 0. Now in this problem, they probably, I can't really tell from this screen, but they probably want you to write these as points on the graph. So a point will have both coordinates, so these will be the two x-intercepts. Remember that the x-intercept is just where the y-coordinate is 0, so when x is negative 2/3, y is 0, and when x is 1, y is 0. And if you are able to produce a graph of this thing on some kind of technology, you'll see that those make sense. All right, it looks like I have room for f, barely, almost out of space, but fortunately f is an easy question. The x-intercept is the point on the graph when the x-coordinate is 0. Well, if you tell me the x-coordinate is 0, that's an input. So I can just put 0 in for x and see what I get for y. So f of 0 is negative 2. So therefore, the point 0, negative 2 is on my graph. And I know that the y-axis is the set of all the points when x is 0. So that is a point on the y-axis that's on my graph. So that is my y-intercept. These are my two x-intercepts. These are the two values, the 2 points when the y-coordinate is negative 2. This is the point on the graph that corresponds to x-coordinate being negative 1, and the value f of 2 is indeed 8, and so the answer to the first question is yes. So I think I've got them all under 10 minutes. Hopefully I can get this uploaded before you've gone to bed.